I didn't touch her, yet she says we're having a child. Alien mystery revealed. Whispers across the void, Doctor. Ellie and Mercer gazed through the viewport of the research station as Lumina's dual moons cast silver-blue light across the crystalline landscape. 3 months into his 2-year assignment studying the planet's unique ecosystem, and he still caught his breath at the beauty of it all. The bioluminescent flora pulsed in rhythm with the planet's magnetic field, creating waves of light that danced across the valley below. The nocturnal blooming cycle is beginning, he dictated into his recorder, the 3rd consecutive night of increased activity. Something's triggering these patterns beyond the usual lunar phases. A soft chime indicated someone at the laboratory door. Elian turned to find Ren, his research assistant, looking uncharacteristically nervous. Sir, there's a Luminian here to see you. Says it's urgent. Elian raised an eyebrow. The native inhabitants rarely visited the human research outpost, preferring to meet in the neutral territory of the trading post. Send them in. The Luminian who entered moved with fluid grace, her purple skin catching the laboratory lights in iridescent patterns. Intricate markings spiraled along her arms, glowing faintly with internal light. Her eyes, large and luminous, were the color of amethysts. Dr. Mercer, she said, her voice melodic with the distinctive harmonic undertones of her species. I am Nyara Viel, lifekeeper of the Eastern Groves. Elian inclined his head respectfully. Welcome to our humble station. How may I assist you? Nyara's gaze was intense, unblinking. I've come because of the connection between us. The one you may not yet perceive. Connection? Elian frowned. He'd seen Nyara at formal gatherings between humans and Luminians, but they'd never spoken directly. I'm afraid I don't understand. 3 nights ago, during the alignment of the moons, you were in the sacred crystal fields collecting samples. It wasn't a question. Yes, with full permission from your council, he added hastily. When you touched the mother crystal, did you feel anything unusual? Elian hesitated. There had been a moment, a strange sensation like electricity flowing through him, a brief vision of colors he couldn't name. He'd attributed it to fatigue or perhaps a mild reaction to the local atmosphere. Perhaps a slight resonance, he admitted. Nyara nodded, her expression softening. In that moment, our life energies synchronized. By the customs and biology of my people, we have begun the creation of new life. We are having a child, Dr. Mercer. The air seemed to leave the room. Elian stared at her, waiting for some indication this was an elaborate cultural misunderstanding or perhaps a joke. That's impossible, he finally managed. We haven't. Physical contact is not how my species conceives, Nyara said gently. It is the resonance of complementary life forces, a harmony that occurs rarely even among our own kind. That you are human makes this unprecedented. Elian sank into his chair, mind racing through scientific impossibilities. I don't understand the mechanism. How could different species possibly? Understanding will come, she replied. The energy has already begun to form between us. In 6 lunar cycles it will manifest. Through the window, the bioluminescent fields pulsed in sudden, synchronized patterns, as if responding to an unseen signal. Elian noticed that the markings on Nyara's skin pulsed with the same rhythm. Why tell me this? Why not simply? He couldn't finish the thought. Because the connection is mutual, as must be the choice. Nyara approached, stopping respectfully short of his personal space. I offer you time to consider. When the smaller moon reaches its apex tomorrow night, I will await you at the edge of echoes. Come if you wish to know more. She turned to leave, her movements graceful and measured. Wait, Elian called. What happens if I don't come? Nyara paused at the door, her expression unreadable. Then the energy returns to the universe unclaimed. There is no obligation, Dr. Mercer, only possibility. After she departed, Elian stood motionless, staring at the spot where she had been. Outside, the crystal fields continued their hypnotic pulse, seemingly brighter than before, calling to something deep within him that he hadn't known existed. The soul's embrace. Elian couldn't sleep. The conversation with Nyara replayed in his mind as he paced his quarters, occasionally stopping to stare out at the luminous landscape. Scientific rationality warred with the undeniable feeling that had coursed through him in the crystal fields, and again in Nyara's presence. When the smaller moon reached its zenith the following night, Elian found himself at the edge of echoes, a cliff where crystal formations caught sounds and reflected them back in harmonious tones. Nyara stood waiting, her purple skin glowing softly against the night. "You came," she said simply. "I'm a scientist. Curiosity is an occupational hazard." He attempted a smile. "I have questions." "I would be concerned if you didn't." Nyara gestured to a natural formation of crystal seats. "Please." As they sat facing each other, the crystals around them hummed with resonant frequencies. Elian noticed a gentle pulsing light between them, nearly imperceptible but definitely there. "Is that?" He gestured to the space between them. "The beginning of our creation, yes. Still formless, pure energy-seeking pattern." Elian took a deep breath. "In human terms, how would you explain what's happening?" Nyara considered this. "Your species exchanges genetic material physically. Ours exchanges energy patterns, what you might call soul prints. When two compatible patterns meet, they can form a new pattern, a new life. But I'm not Luminian. How could my soul print be compatible? That is the mystery that drew me to you," she admitted. "It shouldn't be possible, yet it happened. When you touched the mother crystal, it acted as a conduit for your essence. I was performing a renewal ritual nearby, and our patterns recognized each other." Elian leaned forward. "So this isn't common even among your people?" "It is rare and considered sacred. Some Luminians never find a compatible resonance." Her expression softened. "I had accepted I might be one of them, until I felt your pattern call to mine." Something in her vulnerability touched him. "What happens now?" "How does this pregnancy progress?" "The energy between us will grow, taking form gradually. We must meet regularly to harmonize our patterns as it develops. In the final phase, the energy will separate from us, becoming an independent being, a child with aspects of both our essences. A half-human, half-Luminian child," Elian murmured. "Is that even biologically viable?" "This isn't biological in your understanding. The child will be Luminian in form but carry your pattern within." She hesitated. "I understand this is overwhelming. If you choose not to participate, there is no shame." Elian stood, walking to the cliff edge. Below, the valley pulsed with waves of bioluminescence that seemed to mirror his racing thoughts. The scientist in him demanded empirical evidence, yet something deeper responded to the gentle light between them. "I'd like to try to understand," he said finally. "To learn, if that's acceptable." Nyara's expression blossomed into a smile that seemed to illuminate her from within. "More than acceptable. It is honored." Over the following weeks, Elian divided his time between research and meetings with Nyara. She taught him Luminian meditation techniques to help him sense the energy patterns around him. Gradually, he began to perceive what she described: the unique resonance of different life forms, the harmonies and discords between them. The day he first consciously sensed the growing energy between them, a distinct pattern that was neither his nor hers but something beautifully unique, he wept with wonder. "It's real," he whispered. "I can feel it." Nyara's fingers hovered near his, not quite touching. "This is how we perceive all life, not as separate forms but as patterns in the great symphony." Their meetings became the highlight of Elian's days. He found himself drawn to Nyara's wisdom, her gentle humor, her perspective so different from human consciousness. As they sat together in the crystal gardens, watching the energy between them grow more defined, he realized his feelings had evolved beyond scientific curiosity. One evening, as twin moons cast their glow over the crystal fields, Nyara taught him the Luminian blessing for new life. Their hands moved in parallel patterns, never touching but tracing the same shapes through the air. The energy between them pulsed brighter with each synchronized movement. "May your pattern find harmony," they spoke together, "in the great symphony of existence." As the final words faded, the light between them flared brilliantly, taking on a more defined shape for the first time. A small, pulsing orb with swirls of both their essences intertwined. Nyara's eyes widened. "It's responding to our united intent." Before Elian could respond, a voice called his name. Wren stood at the edge of the garden, expression tight with concern. "Dr. Mercer, there's an emergency transmission from Earth Command. They're ordering all research personnel to limit contact with the Luminians effective immediately." "What? Why?" Elian stood, instinctively moving closer to Nyara. "There's been an incident at the northern settlement, some kind of energy disturbance. They're calling it a security risk." Wren's eyes darted to the glowing orb between them, then quickly away. "Sir, what is that?" The light dimmed slightly, as if sensing the tension. Elian and Nyara exchanged worried glances, both realizing their unique situation had just become considerably more complicated. Whispers of the Ancients. The new restrictions transformed the research station overnight. Security protocols were implemented, boundaries established, and the open exchange of knowledge that had characterized the human presence on Lumina disappeared behind a wall of suspicion. "This is ridiculous," Elian argued in Director Shelby's office. "The energy fluctuation was a natural phenomenon. The Luminians were trying to contain it, not cause it." "That's not how Earth Command sees it," Shelby replied, fatigue evident in her eyes. "They're concerned about these energy manipulations. Can't you see how it looks from their perspective? An alien race that can control energy fields? It's not control, it's harmony. There's a fundamental difference. Semantics won't matter if they shut us down completely." Shelby sighed. "Look, just follow the protocols. Limited contact, supervised exchanges, all research data transmitted directly to command." Elian bit back his frustration. "And if my research requires more direct collaboration? Submit the request forms, but don't expect quick approval." She gave him a shrewd look. "I've noticed you've been spending considerable time with one particular Luminian, the Lifekeeper." Elian kept his expression neutral. "She's been an invaluable cultural resource. Well, any further meetings will require official clearance and observation." The thought of explaining the energy child growing between them under the watchful eyes of security personnel was impossible. Elian nodded stiffly and left, already forming a different plan. That night he slipped away from the compound, following a hidden path Nyara had once shown him. She was waiting in a small cave lined with crystals that amplified their natural resonance. "The situation is worse than I feared," she said, once he explained the new restrictions. "There are factions among my people who see this as confirmation humans cannot be trusted. They're calling for complete separation." The energy between them pulsed anxiously, responding to their emotions. Elian watched it with concern. "Is this affecting the child?" "It senses our discord, but it's resilient." Nyara moved her hand through the light and it brightened at her touch. "However, we cannot continue meeting in secret. The strain would affect all three of us eventually. What alternatives do we have?" Nyara's expression became resolute. "We must seek the Ancients' counsel." "The Ancients? I thought they were mythological." "That is what we allow outsiders to believe. The Ancients are the oldest of our kind, those who have chosen to transform their physical forms entirely into energy patterns. They dwell within the heart of resonance, our most sacred site." Elian's scientific curiosity ignited. "And they might have a solution? They understand patterns in ways beyond even our comprehension. If anyone can guide us through this unprecedented situation, they can." She hesitated. "But Elian, no outsider has ever been permitted to enter their presence." "Then why would they allow me?" Nyara gestured to the pulsing light between them. "Because of this. A child of two worlds is something even the Ancients have never witnessed. The journey to the heart of resonance required 3 days of careful travel, avoiding both human security patrols and suspicious Luminian factions." Elian sent misleading research coordinates back to the station, buying them time. As they traveled deeper into Lumina's wilderness, the crystalline formations grew more complex and the bioluminescence more intense. Their connection deepened during the journey. Without the constraints of human observers or Luminian customs, they spoke freely, sharing stories of their worlds, their hopes, their fears. Elian found himself captivated by Nyara's perspective. Her people's deep connection to energy patterns had given them insights humans had never considered. On the third night, as they camped beneath towering crystal spires, the barrier between them finally dissolved completely. "May I?" Nyara's voice was soft as she extended her hand toward him, not quite touching. "There is a way we can share thoughts directly. It might help you understand." Elian nodded and Nyara placed her purple palm against his. The sensation was electric, warmth spreading up his arm and throughout his body. Suddenly his perception shifted dramatically. He could see the world through Nyara's senses, energy patterns flowing everywhere. The symphonic resonance of life forms communicating on levels he'd never imagined. More intimately, he felt her feelings for him, curiosity that had blossomed into deep affection, fear for their child's future, hope that transcended their differences. When she finally withdrew her hand, tears streamed down his face. That's how you see everything? It's beautiful beyond words. And now I wish to see through your eyes, she whispered. When their hands met again, Elian focused on sharing his perspective. The wonder of scientific discovery, the joy of understanding natural laws, and his growing feelings for her. Feelings he hadn't fully acknowledged even to himself until this moment. The energy between them swirled in complex new patterns as they separated, reflecting their deeper connection. The child feels it too, Nyara said, watching the light pulse more vibrantly. Our harmony strengthens its pattern. At dawn, they reached the massive crystal formation housing the heart of resonance. Luminian guardians initially blocked their path, alarmed at Elian's presence, but fell silent when they observed the energy child floating between the unlikely pair. Inside the vast chamber, crystalline structures converged toward a central point where pure energy flowed in complex, ever-changing patterns. As they approached, portions of the energy coalesced into vaguely humanoid forms. The ancients, beings of pure light and pattern. A melodious, multi-layered voice filled the chamber, speaking directly to their minds. We have observed your approach, child of Earth and daughter of Lumina. Your creation calls to us, a harmony never before witnessed. Elian and Nyara knelt respectfully, the light between them pulsing in response to the ancient's presence. We seek guidance, Nyara said. Our worlds are pulling apart, yet our patterns have joined. And what do you truly wish? The voices asked. Speak your hearts, not your fears. Elian found himself answering without hesitation. To protect what we've created. To understand this connection between us. To find a place where both can exist. The energy forms shifted, communicating among themselves in patterns too complex to follow. Finally, they addressed the couple again. What grows between you is more significant than you realize. Not merely a child, but a bridge. The first of a new harmony that could unite your peoples. The light forms moved closer. We will show you. The ancients surrounded the energy child, their patterns merging with it momentarily. The orb expanded, becoming more defined, showing glimpses of its potential form. Unmistakably Luminian, but with subtle human characteristics in its pattern. This child will speak to both worlds. Understand both patterns. Such a bridge has never existed. The ancients withdrew, but this wisdom comes with warning. Those who fear change will try to prevent this harmony. How do we protect it? Elian asked. The answer lies within the patterns you have already created together. Trust what you have begun. As they departed the heart of resonance, a message reached Nyara from her people. The conflict between humans and Luminians had escalated. The human command had ordered all personnel to return to the station for immediate evacuation, while Luminian elders had called their people to retreat to the ancient sanctuaries. They're separating our worlds entirely, Elian realized with growing alarm. Nyara's expression was determined as she looked at the now brighter energy between them. Then we must become the bridge ourselves. Convergence of stars racing against time. Elian and Nyara made their way through Lumina's shifting crystal forests. The planet itself seemed to respond to the growing tension between the two civilizations. The normally harmonious bioluminescence now pulsed in erratic, discordant patterns. We need to reach the station before the evacuation, Elian said as they paused at a ridge overlooking the valley. In the distance, transport ships had already begun landing near the human compound. And I must speak with our council, Nyara added, her eyes fixed on the Luminian city visible as a constellation of purple-blue lights across the valley. But we cannot separate. Not now. The energy child between them had grown more substantial during their journey from the heart of resonance, responding to the ancients' intervention. Its form was now clearly visible even in daylight, a swirling nebula of light with an increasingly defined core. It's developing faster than expected, Nyara observed, her voice mixed with wonder and concern. The ancients' influence? Perhaps. Or perhaps it senses the urgency. She turned to him, violet eyes intense. Elian, before we face our peoples, there is something we must do to protect our child. She led him to a small clearing where crystal formations created a perfect circle. Inside, the ground was carpeted with soft moss-like vegetation that emitted a gentle luminescence. This is a bonding circle, she explained. Traditionally used by my people to solidify life connections. If we complete the ritual, our energy patterns will be permanently harmonized. The child's pattern will be anchored to both of us equally, making it impossible to separate. A permanent bond? Elian asked, understanding the gravity of what she proposed. Yes. It would link us in ways beyond physical connection. A sharing of consciousness, of life force. Her expression softened. It is not done lightly, even among my kind. Elian looked at the pulsing energy between them, then back at Nyara's face, a face that had become beloved to him in ways he hadn't believed possible across such different forms of life. Will it hurt the child if we don't? Not hurt, but without the ritual, its connection to you might fade if we're forced apart. It would become fully Luminian, losing the bridge nature the ancients spoke of. Elian stepped into the circle without hesitation. Show me what to do. The ritual began with them standing opposite each other, the energy child floating between them. Nyara guided him through movements that mirrored hers. Hands tracing intricate patterns in the air, feet stepping in perfect synchronization around the circle. The patterns we create must align perfectly, she explained as they moved. Feel the rhythm, rather than thinking about the steps. As they continued, the crystals surrounding them began to resonate, emitting harmonious tones that seemed to match their movements. The ground beneath them glowed brighter, responding to their synchronized energy. Now, Nyara said softly, we speak our intentions to the universe. Following her lead, Elian repeated phrases in the Luminian language, promises of protection, nurture, and unity that transcended species and form. With each phrase, the light between them pulsed more brightly. For the final alignment, Nyara said, we must touch not just physically but with complete openness of pattern. They stood facing each other, the energy child swirling between them. Slowly, they reached out, palms meeting in the space around the light. The sensation was beyond anything Elian had experienced, more intense than their previous connection. He felt as though his consciousness was expanding, merging with Nyara's while still remaining distinct. Through her perception, he experienced the full depth of her feelings, her initial curiosity about him, the shock and wonder when their patterns had synchronized, the growing affection that had become something deeper. He shared his own journey, scientific skepticism transformed by experiences beyond rational explanation, and the profound love that had grown for both her and the impossible child forming between them. The energy child responded to their connection, expanding to envelop them both in a cocoon of light. Within that shared space, Elian and Nyara's consciousness merged completely, no longer separate beings but a perfect harmony of complementary patterns. When the light finally receded, they remained connected by gossamer threads of energy that linked their hearts, minds, and the now stronger form between them. It's done, Nyara whispered, eyes shining with emotion. We are bonded. Elian felt the difference immediately, a constant awareness of Nyara's presence in his mind, a sharing of sensations and emotions that didn't overwhelm, but rather complemented his own experience. I can still feel you, he said in wonder. Even when we're not touching. Yes. Distance can no longer separate us completely. She smiled, touching the space near the energy child, which responded by pulsing more brightly. And our little one is now equally connected to both of us. Their moment of joy was interrupted by the distant sound of transport engines growing louder. They're increasing the evacuation, Elian said, sensing urgency. We need to go now. As they approached the human compound, they encountered a security perimeter. Armed guards stopped them, immediately suspicious of Nyara and the luminous energy floating between them. Dr. Mercer, you're ordered to report for immediate evacuation, a guard stated, pointedly ignoring Nyara. No natives are permitted inside the compound. I need to speak with Director Shelby, Elian insisted. It's a matter of planetary importance. Sir, we have strict orders. Then take me to her, but Nyara comes too. I won't leave her. The standoff might have escalated if not for Wren's timely appearance. I'll take responsibility for them, his assistant offered, showing credentials to the guards. Director Shelby did want all research heads to report directly. The compromise got them through the perimeter, though under heavy escort. Inside the compound, chaos reigned as scientists hastily packed equipment and research materials. Director Shelby's expression shifted from relief to confusion when she saw Elian enter with Nyara and the glowing energy between them. Mercer, where have you been? We've been searching. She stopped mid-sentence, staring at the energy form. What is that? That's why we need to talk, Elian said. Before this evacuation goes any further. As Elian explained their situation, the unprecedented creation of their child, the ancients' guidance and the potential bridge between their civilizations, Shelby's expression cycled through disbelief, shock, and finally cautious wonder. You're telling me this energy is a child, your child? She clarified, studying the pulsing light. A child of both our essences, Niara confirmed. The first of its kind, and the ancients believe it could help unite our peoples. They called it a bridge, Elian said. But that future is impossible if Earth Command separates us now. Shelby paced her office, clearly torn. Earth Command is reacting to fear, not facts. These energy manipulations are beyond their understanding, so they're retreating. Then help them understand, Elian urged. You've been here from the beginning. You know the Luminians aren't a threat. Before Shelby could respond, alarms blared throughout the compound. A communications officer burst into the room. Director, Luminian vessels are approaching from the east. They're demanding the return of all their people, by force if necessary. It's the separation faction, Niara explained, her mental connection to Elian filled with concern. They believe all contact with humans should end. Through their bond, Elian sensed her reaching out, connecting to the approaching Luminians. My people feel betrayed by the evacuation order, she explained. They see it as confirmation that humans cannot be trusted with our knowledge. The energy child between them pulsed erratically, responding to the mounting tension. It's sensing the discord, Niara said worriedly. Director Shelby watched the energy form with growing concern. If what you say is true, if this really is a bridge between our species, then we can't let either side destroy this opportunity. She made a decision. I'll delay the evacuation and attempt communication with the Luminian vessels. But you two need to get somewhere safe. If either side sees that child, they might react unpredictably. The crystal caverns, Niara suggested. The resonance there will help stabilize the child's pattern during this turmoil. As they prepared to leave, Shelby caught Elian's arm. I'm risking my career on this, Mercer. I hope your miracle child is everything you believe it to be. It's more, he replied with certainty born of his connection to both Niara and their creation. It's the future. They slipped away from the compound as negotiations began, racing toward the crystal caverns while above them, human and Luminian vessels positioned themselves in a tense standoff. Through their bond, they could feel the child's energy fluctuating with each surge of conflict. Deep within the caverns, surrounded by crystals that sang with resonant frequencies, they created a protected space. The energy child settled between them, still visible but more stable in the harmonious environment. Now we wait, Elian said, taking Niara's hand as they sat side by side in the crystal chamber. Not just wait, she corrected gently. We prepare. Our child will need us strong and united when it fully manifests. In the quiet sanctuary of the caverns, while conflict brewed above, they began to plan for a future neither of their worlds had imagined possible. Beyond physical borders, 3 days passed in the crystal caverns while negotiations between humans and Luminians continued on the surface. Through their bond, Elian and Niara sensed the shifting tides of tension and occasional moments of understanding between their peoples. The energy child grew stronger in their protected environment, its form becoming more defined with each passing hour. It's almost time, Niara whispered on the dawn of the 4th day. The energy between them had condensed into a more cohesive shape, still luminous but with distinguishable features beginning to form within the light. Elian felt it too, a sense of imminence, of completion approaching. Through their bond, he could perceive the intricate patterns forming as their combined essences organized into a new, independent being. What happens during the manifestation, he asked. When a Luminian child manifests, the energy separates completely from the parents, taking its final form. It's our equivalent of birth. Niara's eyes reflected the pulsing light. But this manifestation is unprecedented. Our child carries patterns from both our species. A sudden surge of energy from the developing form sent waves of sensation through both of them. The cavern's crystals responded, resonating with harmonic tones that filled the space. It's beginning, Niara said, reaching for Elian's hands. We must help guide the patterns. They sat facing each other, the energy child floating between them, and began the harmonizing movements Niara had taught him. Their synchronized motions created ripples in the energy field surrounding them, stabilizing the increasingly rapid changes within the manifestation. The light intensified, becoming almost too bright to look at directly. Elian felt waves of emotion through their bond, Niara's mix of joy and anxiety matching his own. The energy began to pulse in a distinct rhythm, like a heartbeat growing stronger. Suddenly, the cavern filled with resonant tones as all the crystals vibrated in perfect harmony. The light between them expanded in a final brilliant flash, then contracted swiftly, condensing into a defined form. Floating before them was a small luminous being, unmistakably Luminian in basic shape, with delicate limbs and features, but with subtle variations that hinted at its unique origins. Its skin was a lighter shade of purple than typical Luminians, with patterns that shifted and changed rather than remaining fixed. Most striking were its eyes, larger than human but shaped more like Elian's, with irises that contained swirling patterns of energy rather than solid color. For a moment, none of them moved. Then the child's consciousness touched theirs through the bond, a sensation of pure wonder, curiosity and love that brought tears to Elian's eyes. "Hello, little one," he whispered. The child responded not with words but with pulses of feeling, recognition, joy, belonging. "It knows us," Niara said in wonder, reaching out toward their child without quite touching. The little being reached back, its small fingers emitting a soft glow. "What shall we name our miracle?" Elian asked. Niara considered thoughtfully. "In my language, Lyra means bridge between worlds. It seems fitting." "Lyra," Elian repeated, feeling the rightness of it. "Perfect." Their moment of peace was interrupted by the sound of approaching voices, both human and Luminian. Elian and Niara exchanged concerned glances, instinctively moving to protect Lyra between them. Director Shelby entered the chamber first, accompanied by Wren. Behind them came several Luminian elders, including Taval, head of the High Council. Their expressions changed from determination to amazement as they beheld the manifested child. "It's true," Taval breathed, his aged purple features illuminated by Lyra's glow. "The impossible harmony." Director Shelby approached cautiously. "The negotiations have reached an impasse. Both sides are preparing to separate completely." Her gaze fixed on Lyra. "We came to warn you and to see if what you claimed was real." "As you can see," Elian said, gently encouraging Lyra to turn toward the newcomers. "It's very real." The little being regarded the visitors with curious eyes, then surprised everyone by floating closer to them, examining each face with innocent wonder. "It's not afraid," one of the Luminian elders noted with surprise. "She," Niara corrected gently. "Her name is Lyra." Lyra extended a small hand toward Taval, who hesitated only briefly before reaching back. When their fingers nearly touched, a small current of energy passed between them. The ancient Luminian's eyes widened. "I can sense both patterns within her, human and Luminian, perfectly harmonized." He turned to his fellow elders. "This changes everything we believed about energy compatibility." Director Shelby watched in fascination as Lyra floated to her next, repeating the near-touch connection. The director gasped slightly at the contact. "I felt something, like a greeting." She looked at Elian in wonder. "How is this possible?" "The ancients called her a bridge," Elian explained. "She can connect with both species because she carries both essences." "A living bridge," Taval mused. "Perhaps that is what both our peoples need right now. Not separation, but a new form of connection." Over the following days, as news of Lyra's existence carefully spread, representatives from both sides came to witness the miracle child. Humans who had never perceived energy patterns could feel Lyra's gentle contact, while Luminians marveled at the human elements woven into her Luminian form. In the great assembly hall of the Luminian city, a historic gathering took place. Human scientists and officials sat alongside Luminian elders and citizens, with Elian, Niara, and Lyra at the center. "What we witness here is not merely an unprecedented biological event," Taval addressed the assembly. "It is a sign that our differences need not divide us. If these two beings can create harmony from such different patterns, perhaps our civilizations can learn to do the same." Director Shelby stood to address both peoples. "Earth Command sent us here to understand this world. In our fear of the unknown, we nearly destroyed the greatest discovery possible. That connection transcends physical form. She gestured to where Lyra floated between her parents. This child represents possibilities we never imagined. The evacuation order was rescinded. In its place, a new initiative was formed, the Harmonic Exchange, dedicated to understanding the energy patterns that Luminians perceived naturally and humans were only beginning to comprehend. 6 months later, a small settlement took shape in the valley between the Human Research Station and the Luminian city. Simple structures of crystal and earth materials housed the first volunteers of the exchange, humans learning to perceive energy patterns, and Luminians curious about physical sciences. In a garden at the center stood a crystal spire, its resonance tuned to match the unique frequency of the bridge that had made it all possible. Nearby, in a home that blended elements of both worlds, Elian and Niara watched their daughter floating among crystal flowers, her laughter sending ripples of light through the surrounding plants. She grows so quickly, Elian observed, feeling through their bond how Lyra's consciousness expanded daily, absorbing knowledge from both her heritages. She develops as a Luminian child does, Niara explained, reaching awareness before physical maturity. Soon she'll begin formal energy training, and human education too, Elian added. She belongs to both worlds. No, Niara corrected gently, watching as Lyra created her first independent energy pattern, a small sphere of light dancing above her palm. She belongs to the new world we're creating together, one that exists beyond physical borders. As if understanding, Lyra turned to her parents, her luminous eyes reflecting wisdom beyond her months. The light she had created floated from her hand, expanding to encircle all three of them in a perfect sphere of harmony, a family unlike any before, and a promise of connections yet to come. In the distance, the twin moons of Lumina rose over the valley where two civilizations were learning to see through each other's eyes. Guided by the miracle that love, in any form, creates bridges where none seemed possible.